absolutely impossible task, isn't it? Designing for the future. What on earth is the future going to be like? And I've got to do it in 10 minutes. Impossible. So I've got far too many slides. I'm going to talk really fast. But I thought I put this slide up because if anybody was here yesterday, we had a fantastic presentation by Bennett's Associates talking about this new headquarters for pathologists college, and their main remit there was about designing the building to last. They did not intend to move again. It's very specially designed specifically for that building, and as well as all of these projects, all actually equally beautiful, gorgeous buildings that all have been designed specifically to be there for the long term. So, you know, in many respects, that's about designing for the future. And they have, the text on the left is what they all have in common. They're very specific to the brief, but actually included some flexibility so that you have some elements that could be moved and adapted and used. But that fundamentally the frame is there and robust and designed in concrete to provide low energy through its use of thermal mass. Actually specified to have some low carbon concrete, so it's used cementitious additions, high quality design and high quality materials, less stuff. You know, and actually all of those things is almost a summary of everything that I'm going to be talking about in this presentation. It's good, responsible, sustainable construction of thinking about getting the bones of the building right. Because of course that's how concrete, if you look at it in that way, fits into the circular economy. And if we're thinking about the future, we need to have an economy and a building construction that is tapped into circular economy. So this is what I call the milk bottle effect. Keeping a building, you don't get a milk bottle and then crush it up and make another bottle. Just keep it as a bottle as long as possible. You know, and that's what we should be doing with our frames of our buildings. You know, maybe taking off the cladding and recladding. Good sustainable strategy. I'm not the only one saying this, obviously, but actually if you read Simon Sturgis's book on Targeting Zero, great quote there saying that from a whole life carbon approach, it's the right strategy to do. Why on earth would you knock something down and rebuild it when actually you just make it last for longer? Improve the energy efficiency in the process while you're retrofitting as well. And lots of examples, of course, of how it's been done. It's of course not the only way of designing for the future. They were specifically designed for a type of brief with flexibility. The other way of doing it is designing a frame that's long life, loose fit approach, which of course has been around for a very long time. Getting decent floor to ceiling heights, decent spans so that you've got minimum amounts of columns. Or designing for reuse and reassembly. It's not the raison d'etre of concrete, that's not generally what concrete is being used, but of course it can be. We know that that's what happened to the Olympics. Didn't happen, they didn't reuse it, it still stayed there, and I do wonder how many buildings actually will be disassembled and reused. Interesting question there. But of course, if you're going to be thinking about the future, you've got to think about what the context of the future is going to be. What are the environmental conditions? Tom's going to talk a little bit about that later on. The Met Office is saying this is what we need to be considering. We need to be future-proofing our building. We're going to hear next about fantastic white-collar factory and the processes and the things that they've gone through in terms of providing a good, healthy environment, to keep using the thermal mass of the building to keep it cool in the temperatures that we're going to be experiencing in the future. And of course, it doesn't all have to be done right now. Get the bones right. Think about, you know, it's fairly inexpensive to design it thinking about the future. Heat map it. Understand what the conditions are. Test out the performance. This is what PRP did for this, it's a housing scheme for the elderly. And obviously, as we're becoming more frail, there's more people of an aged population living, the impacts of overheating is going to be greater. We need to be, and what they did is they changed it from a lightweight frame and put some thermal mass in there so that they recognized that that's what they were going to need in the future, and some other things that they could adapt. It's not just overheating. Thinking about the future, we need to think about flood resilience. Actually understand, particularly in certain parts of the country, recognizing how we can live with water more appropriately. And lots of solutions there, whether it's a SUD system or keeping the water out, or some of this innovative concrete that lets water drain through. You know, building that into our design where we need to, understanding what the future needs to be. Healthy indoor environments, health and well-being, both of those aspects I've just talked about are very important for mental health, understanding how we feel comfortable and safe within our homes, but also increasingly with the WELL standard and the focus on people and using of buildings, which absolutely is where it should be. Thinking about recognizing that concrete, for example, doesn't off-gas, it doesn't harbor allergens, of naturally inert material. You know, actually, you know, why not? That's what we should be doing, using that thermal mass. Externally, I think what's the future of our cities going to be? Greener, I hope. Greening the city, whether it's a good base for some living walls or some green roofs or innovative concrete that's actually designed to attract and grow plant life on it, keep the water in there. Enriching all of our environments, places that we want to be in, the sort of idea of biophilia that's being talked about, that Oliver Heath is focusing on. And I've worked on this slide in collaboration with him by working out what are the natural patterns and the natural minerals that actually concrete can bring. If we decide to use it that way, it's how we use it. For me as well, there's something about, that when we're living in a world when it's all visual, it's all digital and virtual reality and artificial, actually there's something about the solidity of natural materials or real materials that gives us some comfort, maybe the sense of permanence. It's a slightly deeper philosophical thing, but for me that's certainly something that's there. And beauty, we can't forget about beauty. There's lots of talk about off-site here, and lots of, I'm concerned there's going to be just all this repetition and just repetition for repetition's sake. We've got to make sure that we embed within it some opportunities for our beautiful environments that can enrich our lives. And of course it's fairly easy to do that with concrete because you make the mold and then you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Lots of examples of how this has been done. But it's not, that's us as designers, what we need to be doing with our buildings. We need to be thinking about the concrete itself as well. What, as a material, is it fit for the future, and how would you be using that in the future? Well, the industry has been measuring and lowering, improving environmental standards for 10 years now. I've been doing it for a lot longer, but it's been stating the figures for 10 years, and there's lots of information on our stand. To the extent that it's important, you need to make sure that the materials that we use are responsibly sourced, that we know that they're being produced appropriately, that we know where they're coming from. Lots of brilliant statistics there about the UK industry. And of course, if we're thinking about circular economy, you've got to think about the material as well. The industry uses 210 times more waste than it actually produces. Extraordinary. And a lot of that is through the use of alternative fuels to make the cement. And of course the other side of that is it's lowering the carbon footprint of the material as well. So thinking about the sustainability credentials of materials, hugely important, and the trajectory is really good with concrete and the way that it's going within the UK. Every single part of concrete potentially can have recycled content in it. And there's the standards already within the standards. Sometimes you've got to work out what type of concrete you're using and how appropriate it is for where it can be. But it's all absolutely possible, whether it's low carbon cements mixed in as a cementitious material or different types of natural aggregates. This is something that we can do as specifiers. If you don't understand about it, you can use alternative cements within the concrete to lower the carbon footprint. Get this guidance, it tells you all about it. And there's new generation of cements coming through. These are cements that don't have, they're cementitious materials that don't have cement in them. Some of them even are allowing an electric charge to help us monitor the health of our buildings. And new concrete that's designed to do things that we wouldn't expect concrete to do, whether it's pollution eating or ultra thin or letting the light through. Meeting the needs of what we may need more of in the future. Who knows? Because we can't predict it. Is concrete going to have more recycled content in it? Loads of research going on into shredded tyres and plastic, carbon capture concrete. Concrete that can actually store electricity, so you use our potential to use our infrastructure to help even out the peaks and troughs of renewable energy. There's lots of really good ways in which concrete is being embedded within the supply of renewable energy, and of course that's an important part of what we're thinking about with the future. Let alone smart construction. I mean, if we're talking about a revolution, definitely digital technology is with us and coming through, and that is going to be changing the way we do things, whether we understand our buildings, embed the data in the buildings, going forward and using it. So, I mean, that's ridiculously short, and I've only given you headlines of lots of issues, but if you want to find some more, do come over and have a look at some of the concrete that we've got on the stand, have a conversation with us, and hopefully it's given you a bit of a flavour of the energy and the things that are happening with concrete going forward. And of course, who knows, this is happening. We're thinking about what we do on other worlds as well in terms of the future and where do we go, and concrete's got a role to play there too. Thank you.